The outpost stood quiet on the edge of the alien desert. The human soldier sat on a crate cleaning his old rifle, the kind of routine he did every evening when the twin suns began to set. The desert winds carried fine dust that clung to his boots and armor. He was used to silence, used to being alone, used to long days without anyone speaking to him. But that day was different. He heard a soft sound behind him, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. At first he thought it was his mind playing tricks. Then he heard it again, a trembling voice, weak but filled with something heavy. "My mom died today. Can I spend the day with you, human?" The soldier froze, his hand stopped moving. The cloth fell from his fingers. He turned slowly, unsure what he would see there. Standing at the edge of the outpost gate was a young alien girl, no older than 8 or 9 by human measure. Her skin had a faint glow under the fading light, her eyes too large for her face filled with tears. Her clothes were torn, dust covering her small figure. She looked fragile, yet something in her eyes carried a weight no child should ever bear. The soldier felt his chest tighten. He had seen many things on battlefields, many faces twisted in fear or anger, but never had he seen such simple pain in a child's words. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. What could a human soldier say to that? He stood up slowly and walked closer. The girl did not move away. She only held her small hands together, waiting. Her voice shook again, softer this time. "I don't want to be alone. Please, just today, let me stay with you." The soldier's mind raced. He knew the rules. He knew he should not interfere with local lives. But rules felt like dust in that moment, meaningless against the sight of a grieving child. He knelt down so his eyes met hers. Her gaze did not break, though tears fell freely down her glowing cheeks. "Okay," he said finally, his voice low, steady. "But stay close." The girl blinked, then nodded quickly, almost desperately. It was as if those 2 words gave her a rope to hold on to in the storm of her grief. The soldier felt something stir inside him, something he thought had died long ago. He remembered the face of his own daughter back on Earth, the one he had lost years ago in an accident. That wound had never healed, and yet here was another child, asking him for nothing more than presence. Not protection, not food, not shelter, only to not be alone. As the twin suns sank lower, the soldier lit a small lantern. The glow spread across the empty outpost walls, and the girl followed him inside, her steps quiet but close. She looked around at the bare room, the metal bunk, the few supplies stacked neatly. It was not a home, not even comfortable, but to her it was better than emptiness. She sat on the edge of the bunk, her small legs dangling. For a while she said nothing, and neither did the soldier. The silence between them was heavy but not hostile. It was the silence of 2 broken souls sitting together. Finally she spoke again, her voice almost a whisper. "My mom. She told me once humans were dangerous," she said. Her large eyes lifted to him, shining with tears. "But you don't look dangerous. You look lonely." The soldier felt the words hit him harder than any weapon. Lonely. Yes, that was the word. He swallowed and looked away. Pretending to adjust the lantern, he could not tell her the truth. That loneliness had been his only companion for years. Instead, he simply said, "Eat something," pushing a ration pack toward her. She took it in her small hands, sniffed it, and gave a faint nod. As she chewed quietly, the soldier kept watch, his rifle leaning by the wall, his eyes scanning the desert through the window. Yet his thoughts were not on threats, but on the girl. Why was she alone? Where was her family, her people? Why did she come to him, a stranger, a human of all things? The more he thought, the more uneasy he felt. This was not random, it could not be. Something about her presence whispered of danger, of a story much larger than one broken child. But for now he did not push. He let her eat, let her sit near him, let her feel the closeness she had asked for, and deep inside, he felt the weight of her first words repeating in his mind like an echo. "My mom died today. Can I spend the day with you, human?" The soldier clenched his fists slowly. He knew this was not just a day. This was the beginning of something he could not yet see. Something that would test his strength, his heart, and his promise. And outside the desert grew darker in the distance. Unseen eyes were already watching, waiting. The morning came with a pale red glow across the desert sky. The soldier had not slept much, his mind heavy with questions, yet when he opened his eyes, he found the alien girl already awake, sitting quietly on the bunk with her knees pulled to her chest. She looked small, fragile, but her eyes carried a strange calm, as if she had grown older overnight. When she noticed him watching, she whispered, You said I could stay close, so I didn't move. The soldier sat up slowly. Rubbing the tiredness from his face, he nodded, saying nothing. But inside he felt the pull of responsibility. He had made a promise, even if it was only for a day. And a promise was something he did not break. He handed her another ration pack, and she accepted it with both hands, thanking him in her soft voice. It was strange, he thought, how quickly the silence between them had changed. Yesterday she was a stranger. Today she felt like a presence that belonged in the outpost. When she finished eating, she stood and looked toward the horizon. Can we walk? She asked. I don't want to sit inside all day. It makes me think of her. The soldier understood without needing her to explain more. He strapped on his gear, slung the rifle across his back and said, Stay close. They stepped out into the desert. The twin suns climbing higher. The air was dry. The wind carried the smell of iron and dust. The girl walked beside him, her small steps quick to keep pace. For a long time they said nothing, but her eyes darted everywhere, studying the rocks, the sand, even the sky. Finally she asked, What's Earth like? Is it very different from here? The soldier paused, the question catching him off guard. He thought of green fields, of rivers, of forests thick with life, things he had not seen in years. He thought of rain tapping against windows, of oceans that stretched farther than any desert. It's alive, he said at last. Everywhere you look, something is alive. The girl's lips parted slightly and she whispered, That sounds beautiful. She asked more questions as they walked. Do humans sleep under two suns or only one? Do humans sing songs at night like her people did? Did his daughter look like her? Each question pierced him, reminding him of things he had lost, but also filling him with something warm. For the first time in years, he felt like his words mattered to someone. As the day stretched on, the soldier noticed the way the girl's grief softened at moments, replaced by childlike wonder. She touched strange plants along the path, laughed when a small desert creature scurried across their feet, and even dared to run a little ahead, only to look back quickly and make sure he was still there. Every time she looked back, his heart tightened. He remembered his own daughter doing the same when she was young, and the ache in his chest grew sharper. Around midday, they stopped near a cluster of tall rocks, the shade offering relief from the burning suns. The soldier let her rest while he kept watch. Scanning the horizon for a while, everything seemed still, but then his trained eyes caught something. A faint movement far in the distance. He narrowed his gaze, but the heat waves made it blur. The girl followed his stare and asked him, What is it? Nothing, he said quickly, though unease coiled in his chest. He didn't want to worry her, not yet, still. He tightened his grip on the rifle, keeping it closer. When she finished resting, they continued. But the soldier walked a little slower now, more alert. He noticed the way her small hand brushed against his arm sometimes, like she was testing to make sure he was really there. It reminded him of the night before, her first trembling request, and it made his promise feel heavier. By evening, they reached a ridge where the desert stretched endlessly below, the horizon painted in gold and red. The girl gasped at the sight, her sorrow replaced by awe. It's so big, she whispered. It feels like it will never end. The soldier nodded, staring out with her, but his eyes were sharp, searching. The desert was big, yes, but it also hid secrets, and he could not shake the feeling that they were not alone. As the last light faded, they made their way back to the outpost. The girl walked quietly now, her earlier energy gone and her steps slower. By the time they reached the gate, she looked exhausted, her eyelids heavy. The soldier guided her inside, made her drink water, and helped her settle onto the bunk. She looked up at him once before sleep claimed her, whispering, Thank you for today. He stood in silence long after her breathing steadied. His eyes returned to the horizon beyond the outpost wall. The faint movement he had seen earlier still haunted his mind. Perhaps it was only shadows, perhaps it was nothing, but in his gut, the soldier knew the truth. They were not alone in the desert, and the promise he made to this child was going to be tested sooner than he expected. The desert was quiet the next morning, too quiet. The soldier woke before the suns had risen, his instincts pulling him from restless sleep. He checked the perimeter, his eyes scanning the endless horizon, and for the second time he thought he saw something move far away. Just beyond the dunes, it was only a flicker, but enough to stir unease inside him. Inside the outpost, the girl stirred awake. Rubbing her glowing eyes with small hands, her voice was soft, filled with that same mix of sorrow and hope from before. "Are we walking again today?" she asked, almost like a child asking for a story before bed. The soldier looked at her, then back toward the desert. "We'll walk," he said. "But stay close." They set out as the suns climbed higher, their shadows stretching long over the sand. The girl hummed a tune softly, a broken melody that reminded him of something ancient. When he asked about it, she whispered, "My mother used to sing it when I was scared." Her words made the soldier's chest tighten, but he said nothing, only adjusted his rifle strap and kept walking. The desert seemed the same as before, rocks, dust, and the endless wind. But the soldier's trained senses told him otherwise. There was something different today, a feeling of eyes hidden just beyond sight. Once, he caught the glimmer of metal under the suns. Another time he heard the faint crunch of sand that was not their own steps. Each time he turned there was nothing, only emptiness. The girl noticed his unease, her small voice trembling. "You see them too, don't you?" The soldier stopped, staring at her. "What do you mean?" he asked. Her eyes dropped to the ground, her hands tightening. "They've been following since yesterday. I can feel them." The soldier's heart beat heavier. He knelt in front of her, keeping his voice calm. "Who's following? Tell me." The girl hesitated, then her voice came out like a confession. "My mother. She wasn't just anyone. She was important. She was a leader. Some people didn't like her, and now that she's gone, they want me to." The soldier stayed silent, his jaw tightening. So it was true, this child was not only broken by grief, she was hunted, and if what she said was right, then the shadows he saw were not tricks of the light, but enemies closing in. He took her hand firmly, something he had not done before. "Stay close," he repeated, this time with sharper weight. Her small fingers clung to his with desperate trust. Together they continued, but every step now carried tension. By midday they reached the ridge again, the same place where the desert stretched forever. The soldier scanned the horizon carefully, his eyes narrowing, then he saw it, clear this time. A figure moving quickly behind a dune, disappearing just as fast. The soldier's pulse quickened. They were no longer imagining it. The shadows were real. The girl looked at him, fear flickering in her glowing eyes. "They won't stop," she whispered. "Not until I'm gone." Her voice broke, and tears welled again, but she did not let go of his hand. The soldier crouched low, pulling her with him. He studied the sands carefully, every ripple and shift. Yes, they were being tracked, maybe 2, maybe 3. Maybe more, he could not be sure. The suns began to sink, painting the sky in red and orange. The soldier decided they could not wander further. It was safer to return to the outpost. But the way back felt longer, the silence heavier. Every few minutes he thought he heard the faint echo of steps behind them. The girl clung tighter, her breath quick and shallow. When they finally reached the outpost gate, the soldier wasted no time. He sealed the entrance, set up extra sensors, and positioned his rifle by the window. The girl sat on the bunk, knees pulled to her chest. Eyes wide with fear, she said nothing, but the way she watched him showed she understood everything. The danger was real, and it was coming closer. That night, the desert outside was restless. The wind howled, the sand shifted, and more than once the soldier thought he saw shapes moving just beyond the lantern light. He stayed awake, his hand never leaving the rifle, his eyes never leaving the horizon. The girl eventually fell asleep, but even in sleep she trembled, whispering her mother's name. The soldier knew then that his promise had changed. It was no longer about letting her spend just a day with him. Now it was about keeping her alive. And as the first faint glow of dawn touched the desert sky, the soldier whispered to himself, "Whoever you are out there, if you come for her, you'll have to go through me first." But deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. The shadows in the distance were not just hunters. They were part of something bigger, something that would test every bit of strength he had left. And in that moment he understood. The day, unlike any other, had turned into a mission unlike any before. The night settled heavy around the outpost. The lantern flickered against the cold metal walls, and the desert outside whispered with shifting winds. The soldier sat by the window, his rifle resting across his knees, his eyes fixed on the endless dark. Every sound made him tighten his grip, the crunch of sand, the rattle of loose metal, the faint whistle of wind. He had been trained to know when danger was close, and tonight that training screamed louder than ever. Behind him, the girl slept curled on the bunk, though her sleep was restless, her body trembling as though even her dreams were haunted. Sometimes she whispered broken words in her alien tongue. Sometimes she clutched at the blanket like she was afraid someone might pull her away. The soldier turned his head once, watching her. His face hard but his chest heavy. He told himself again what he already knew. This child was not safe, not now, not here. Not anywhere when dawn came. The desert did not feel brighter. The suns rose, but the shadows seemed to cling to the sands as if they refused to burn away. The soldier gave the girl water and another ration pack, and she ate in silence, her eyes never leaving him. It was as if she waited for his words to decide whether or not she should feel safe. After a long silence, she finally spoke, her voice low. "You saw them last night too, didn't you?" The soldier paused, then gave a single nod. Her hands tightened around the pack and she whispered, "They won't stop until I'm gone." He crouched in front of her, meeting her eyes. "You said your mother was important. Tell me everything, no secrets." The girl hesitated, her lips trembling, then finally the truth spilled from her. "My mother was a leader, not just of my village, but of many. She was one of the council who kept peace between clans when she died. Peace broke. Now they fight to claim her place and me. I am her blood. Some want me hidden, some want me destroyed." The soldier listened in silence. But inside he cursed the cruel weight on such small shoulders, so this was no random tragedy. This was politics, power, and bloodlines. The kind of conflict that never cared for children. He stood and checked his rifle again, then walked to the door, scanning the sands. The desert stretched endless, but the feeling of eyes remained. The day passed in uneasy silence. The girl followed him as he checked the outpost perimeter, sometimes holding his sleeve, sometimes staying close without words. She asked small questions now. Not about Earth, not about life, but about survival. "Can you really fight them? Will they hurt you because of me?" Her voice was fragile, but the way she asked told him she already knew the answers. By evening, they lit a small fire outside the outpost walls, the smoke rising thin into the cooling sky. The girl sat across from him, her knees tucked to her chest. Staring into the flames, finally she whispered, "I should leave. If I go, they'll follow me. Not you." The soldier's eyes snapped to hers, hard and unyielding. "No," he said firmly. "You stay close." I made a promise. Tears glimmered in her eyes. But she shook her head. "You don't understand. They want me, not you. If you keep me, you'll die too." The soldier leaned forward, his voice steady. "I've already lost a daughter once. I won't lose another, not if I can help it." The words slipped from him before he could stop them. The girl's eyes widened, her lips parted, but she said nothing. Instead, she crawled closer, sitting beside him by the fire, leaning against his arm in silence for the first time since she arrived. She did not shake, she did not cry, she simply rested. And the soldier stared into the flames, his jaw clenched, his heart heavy. The desert night grew colder and the noises returned. Not the simple whistle of wind, not the shifting sand, but footsteps soft and careful. Circling the outpost, the soldier moved quickly, dousing the fire, pulling the girl close. He raised his rifle, scanning the shadows. But the figures stayed hidden, only the faint glimmer of eyes. Watching, waiting, the girl clung to him, her voice trembling. "They're here." The soldier kept his rifle steady, his voice calm though his pulse thundered. "Stay close," he repeated, the words now heavier than a command. They were a vow. The night dragged on. And though the attackers never struck, they never left either. The soldier knew this was a game of fear. They wanted him tired. They wanted him broken. But he had faced worse. He would not break still. As the suns began to rise again, he knew the truth. This was not a question of if they would attack, but when, and when they came, they would come with force inside the outpost. The girl whispered as she clutched his sleeve, "You'll fight for me, won't you?" The soldier looked at her, his voice steady as stone. "I'll fight for you until the end." And outside, unseen in the heat haze of dawn, the shadows shifted again, drawing closer. The suns rose heavy over the desert sky, painting the horizon in burning red. The soldier stood at the gate of the outpost, his rifle strapped tight, his eyes sharp, his body tense. He had not slept, not truly. Every sound in the night had kept him awake, and every shadow outside the wall reminded him of what was coming. The girl walked to his side, her small hand tugging gently at his sleeve, her voice quiet. "They will come soon, I can feel it." The soldier looked down at her, and for a moment the lines of his face softened. He crouched to meet her eyes, his voice low but strong. "Listen to me. I promised you I would protect you. I don't care how many of them come. I don't care what they want, you stay with me, and I will keep you safe." Her glowing eyes shimmered, tears gathering at the edges, but she nodded, clinging to his words like lifelines. For a while they sat together on the stone steps of the outpost, the silence broken only by the dry wind. The soldier thought of Earth again, of the family he once had, of the little girl who never reached this age. The pain returned sharp, but instead of hollow grief, it gave him strength. This alien child beside him was not his daughter, but she was a child in need, and his heart would not let him fail again. By midday, the soldier began preparing. He checked his rifle, laid out extra ammunition, and set traps around the outpost, simple wires and flares to warn him if the enemy crossed too close. The girl followed him as he worked, carrying small things when he asked, watching carefully as though learning each move. At one point she whispered, "You are different from the humans they told us about. My people said humans only care about themselves." The soldier paused, his hands tightening on the rifle strap. Then he answered softly, "They were wrong, we care. Maybe more than we should." As the heat of the suns pressed down, they sat in the shade of the wall. The girl leaned against him, her voice tired. "Why are you doing this? Why fight for me when you could just leave?" The soldier stared at the desert, his jaw tight. "Because someone left my child once, someone didn't fight for her, and I will not let that happen again." The girl's hand tightened on his arm, and for the first time she smiled faintly, a fragile smile that lit her sorrowful face. It was small, but to the soldier it felt like a victory for a moment. He forgot the hunters in the desert, forgot the danger waiting, and only saw the fragile strength of a child refusing to break. But the peace did not last. Near evening, one of the flares went off, lighting the sky with a streak of red fire. The soldier moved instantly, pulling the girl behind the wall, raising his rifle. He scanned the horizon and saw them, figures moving fast across the dunes, their armor dark, their weapons gleaming in the fading light. The girl gasped, clutching his sleeve tighter. "They've found us," she whispered, her voice shaking. The soldier's heart hammered, but his hands were steady. He had been through battles, ambushes and traps, but this was different. This was personal. He turned to the girl, his voice low and fierce. "Listen, no matter what happens, stay behind me. Stay close, do not run, do not hide, I'll keep them away." She nodded quickly, her tears threatening to fall, but her eyes locked onto his. Trusting completely, the first shots came, striking the walls of the outpost, sparks flying. The soldier fired back, his rifle loud in the desert silence, his body moving with sharp precision. The girl crouched low, her small hands covering her ears. But she did not let go of his sleeve. Even in fear, figures darted closer, shadows racing across the sand. But each one that came too near fell to the soldier's aim. Yet for every one he struck down, more appeared, their numbers growing, their movements coordinated. The soldier's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his brow. He knew he could not hold forever, not against so many. But he also knew retreat was not an option. Not when she was here. Not when he had made a promise. The girl suddenly cried out, pointing toward the ridge. A larger group was gathering there, their weapons aimed, their leader raising a signal. The soldier braced, ready to meet the wave. When something unexpected happened, the girl's body began to glow brighter, her trembling form pulsing with strange energy. Her eyes widened in shock, as if she herself did not understand what was happening. The air around her shimmered, a soft hum filling the air. The soldier glanced at her, startled but still focused. "What's happening?" he demanded. Her voice shook, almost frightened. "I don't know, I never felt this before. Maybe it's my mother's gift." The attackers hesitated at the glow, some pulling back, others shouting in alarm. The soldier positioned himself in front of her, his voice sharp. "Whatever it is, control it, use it. We need it now." The girl closed her eyes, the light spreading wider. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the sands. The attackers faltered, their advance slowed, their formation broken. The soldier seized the chance, firing with renewed force, cutting down those who dared approach. The night swallowed the desert in chaos, but in the middle of it stood one soldier and one child. Not enemies, not strangers, but something stronger. Bound by promise, bound by loss, bound by a new kind of hope. And as the first attackers fell back into the dunes, the soldier whispered to himself, his voice like steel, "They'll never take you. Not while I still breathe." The desert night burned with fire and sound. Weapons cracked against the silence. Sand erupted where blasts struck, and the air trembled with the weight of battle. The soldier stood firm at the outpost wall, his rifle spitting light into the shadows, his eyes sharp, his body moving with the precision of long training. Each enemy that tried to push closer fell before his fire, but they kept coming, their numbers like waves in a storm. Endless and hungry behind him, the girl glowed brighter, her trembling body pulsing with strange light that spread across the sand like ripples in water. Her fear was clear, yet her presence was stronger than before, as if the power hidden in her blood was awakening more with every heartbeat. The attackers shouted in their harsh tongue, some afraid, some angry, their lines breaking as the glow unsettled them. The soldier caught their hesitation and used it, moving quickly, firing with ruthless accuracy, forcing them to scatter. But even as he fought, he knew this battle was not one he could win forever. There were too many, and he had only one rifle. Only one set of hands, only one life to spend. The promise he had made to her felt heavier than the weapon he carried, but it also gave him strength. He would not break that promise. The girl cried out suddenly, her small voice cutting through the noise. "They're surrounding us," she warned, pointing toward the dunes. The soldier's eyes flicked to the ridge and he saw it. More shadows moving fast, circling wide, trying to close the trap. His jaw tightened, his hands steady. "Stay close," he ordered, the words sharp, his vow clear. The glow around the girl flared, and for a brief moment the battlefield shifted. The sand itself seemed to hum, the air heavy with unseen energy. The closest attackers faltered, their weapons sparking, their steps unsteady. The soldier glanced at her, his heart pounding. "Whatever this is, keep it going," he said. "It's our shield." Her glowing eyes looked at him, frightened but determined. "I don't know how," she admitted. "It just happens." "Then don't stop," he replied firmly. "Don't think, just feel, let it stay with you." She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her glowing cheeks, but the light grew steadier, stronger. The attackers cursed, some falling back, others firing wildly in anger. The soldier pressed forward, his rifle blazing, cutting through the confusion, his movements like a storm tearing through dry branches. The sky above roared with thunder, though no storm had been there before. The stars seemed to flicker as if the very world was responding to the child's awakening power. The soldier barely noticed, his focus locked on keeping her safe. His every shot, every step, every breath, driven by that single mission. Minutes stretched like hours, each moment a fight for survival. The soldier's arms ached, his breath harsh, but he did not stop. When his rifle clicked empty, he reloaded with speed born of experience. When the enemies pushed closer, he threw them back with the strength of desperation, and always, always the girl stayed behind him, her light wrapping around them both like a fragile shield. At one point, an enemy broke through, rushing with a blade raised high. The soldier spun, too slow to raise his rifle, but before the strike could land, a burst of light exploded from the girl. The attacker flew backward, thrown into the sand with a scream. His weapon shattering, the girl gasped, shocked at what she had done. But the soldier only nodded, his voice rough. "Good. Don't be afraid of it, use it, it's yours." The attackers began to falter, their numbers breaking under the storm of bullets and light. Some shouted retreat, others tried to regroup, but the fear was spreading among them. They had come to kill a child, but instead they faced something far greater than they expected. The soldier stood tall, his rifle hot in his hands, his chest heaving, his eyes fierce. He shouted into the night, his voice carrying across the desert. "You'll never have her." "Not while I stand." The girl's glow surged once more, spilling across the dunes like dawn breaking early. The enemies stumbled back, blinded, their retreat turning to chaos. Within minutes, the desert fell quiet again, the last of the attackers vanishing into the darkness, leaving only silence, smoke, and the smell of scorched sand. The soldier lowered his rifle slowly, his arms trembling with exhaustion. He turned to the girl, who was kneeling now, her light fading, her body weak. He rushed to her side, steadying her small frame with his hands. "You did it," he said, his voice rough but filled with pride. She shook her head weakly, whispering, "We did it." For a long moment they stayed there, the desert quiet, the stars above watching. The soldier pulled her close, holding her the way he once held his daughter. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. "Not as long as I breathe." And under alien skies, broken by war and shadow, a soldier and a child stood together, two lives scarred by loss but bound now by a promise, by survival. and by something neither of them fully understood. It was not the end. He knew the hunters would return, stronger, angrier, but tonight they had survived. Tonight they had fought back, and tonight, under stars that did not belong to him, the soldier found a new reason to keep fighting. The desert lay silent after the battle, the sand still carrying the scars of fire and light. The outpost walls were marked with scorch lines, the ground littered with broken weapons left behind by those who had fled. The soldier stood at the gate, his rifle lowered, his body trembling from exhaustion, yet his eyes still sharp, scanning the horizon for any sign of return. Beside him, the girl leaned weakly against the wall. Her glow dimmed, her breathing shallow, but her spirit unbroken. For a long while neither spoke, the weight of survival pressing down heavier than words. Finally, the girl whispered, her voice small but steady, "They'll come again, won't they?" The soldier looked down at her, his jaw tight, his answer firm. "Yes, they will, but so will I." Her eyes lifted to his, filled with both fear and hope. "Why? You could leave, you could run. You don't have to carry me with you." The soldier crouched in front of her, his weathered face close, his voice low but certain. "I made you a promise, and promises mean everything. I've lost too much to break another one." The girl's lips trembled, her glowing eyes shimmering with tears. Then she leaned forward, pressing her small forehead against his chest, whispering, "Then let me stay with you. Not just for today, but always." The soldier froze, the words striking deep. He remembered her first plea, the fragile question that began it all. "My mom died today. Can I spend the day with you, human?" It had been only a day, but that day had changed everything. It was no longer just about survival, no longer just about protecting her for a moment. Now it was about something bigger, something lasting. He placed a rough hand gently on her head. "You stay with me from now on. You're my mission." The words were not said lightly. They carried the weight of his past and the strength of his oath. The girl closed her eyes, and for the first time since she had come to him, she allowed herself to smile. A soft, fragile smile that spoke of trust. As dawn broke across the horizon, the twin suns rose together, casting golden fire across the endless desert. The soldier stood tall, the girl at his side, and together they watched the light spread. The silence was no longer empty. It was filled with something new, purpose. But the soldier's mind was not at peace. He knew the shadows would not stop. He knew the hunters would return, stronger, more determined. They would not forgive their failure, and they would not forget the child's glow. The battle last night had not been the end. It had been the beginning, yet instead of fear, he felt resolve. He had fought wars for commanders, for governments, for causes that faded with time. Now he would fight for something pure, for a child who asked only not to be alone. This was no longer duty, this was family. The girl tugged at his sleeve gently, her glowing eyes searching his face. "Will you teach me?" she asked, her voice small but filled with determination. "Teach you what?" he asked. "To be strong, to fight so I'm not just a burden," she whispered. The soldier stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll teach you everything I know, but strength is not only in weapons, it's in the heart, and you already have that." Her cheeks flushed faintly, her lips curving into a shy smile. "Then I'll stay close, and I'll learn." They spent the day repairing the outpost, clearing the battleground, setting stronger defenses. The soldier showed her how to load a magazine, how to listen to the desert wind for movement, how to walk with silence. She struggled, her small hands awkward, but she tried, her determination burning bright. Every time she stumbled, he steadied her. Every time she faltered, he reminded her, "Stay close. You don't have to do it alone." As the suns lowered again, the desert glowed red and gold. The soldier sat on the steps with the girl beside him, both watching the horizon. The silence between them was no longer heavy, no longer haunted. It was the silence of trust. The silence of two broken souls no longer alone. The girl leaned against him, her voice soft. "Do you think my mom can see me? From wherever she is?" The soldier's throat tightened, but he answered gently, "Yes, and she sees you're not alone anymore." The girl smiled faintly, her glowing eyes closing, her small body resting against his arm. The soldier looked out at the desert, his rifle beside him, the trap set, the horizon endless. He knew enemies would come. He knew the war was not over. But as he felt the weight of the girl resting beside him, he also knew he had something worth fighting for again. As the first stars appeared above the alien sky, the soldier whispered to himself, This is my new mission, my last and greatest, to protect her, no matter what comes. And so, under the dawn of a new day on a world not his own, a human soldier and an alien child began something greater than survival. They began a bond that neither death nor shadow could break. They began a story of hope, of loss healed by trust, of protection stronger than blood. And though the desert waited with unseen threats, they stood ready together. Because humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons, not in war, but in the promise to protect and love, even across stars.